Welcome to Haphazard Homestead. On this video, we're going to prepare and compare 10 different kinds of spring greens that we harvested on our big homestead haul of wild weeds. You'll see how to get those weeds ready to use and really enjoy as substantial food. Here are the weeds we're going to look at: dandelion, dock, field mustard, bittercress, plantain, henbit or deadnettle, wild geranium, cleavers, prickly lettuce, and prickly sowthistle. So let's get started looking at dandelions. You can see this is a lot of dandelion greens. That's a lot of food, and we're just going to process them with the standard method. That's all I'm going to do, just as straight up dandelion greens. We have so many dandelion greens. We're going to wash these off. Well, you can see why you want to pick clean, because if you take a look at this, you sure wouldn't want to have to go through and sort out every dandelion green from every other green you've been picking while you're out. You want to keep your picking setup organized. You want to make sure that you pick as clean as you can. You don't want to be sorting through this quantity of stuff, leaf by leaf by leaf by leaf, looking for bad leaves. It's easier to see bad leaves if you've got mostly good leaves. If you had a lot of junk in there, this wouldn't be fun to process at all. So I'm going to go ahead and pick through this and put it all on the counter and come right back. So this is really where the advantage of picking clean comes in. You can see, what did I get? Out of all that picking when I cleaned and picked through it, I had one geranium leaf, one plantain leaf, that's it. And then over here, there's my pile of pickings that aren't fit for the pot. A pile of wild edibles is no different than what you're harvesting from the garden. If it's not of the quality of something that you'd use from the garden, don't put it in your pot just because it's a wild edible. Alright, let's get that in the pot. Just put them in a pot, cover them with boiling water, bring it back to a boil, and then drain that off. Then put more boiling water on them and let them cook down for about 10 minutes. Alright, these dandelion greens are tender now. You can fork them out and try them. They're all tender. So they're going to be done. I'm just going to drain them. I'm not going to save the pot liquor out of this because that's a lot of greens to process. But they're plenty tender. Those are good. Dandelion greens by themselves can be a little bit one-note food, but that's the whole point of having a mixed pot of greens, is to get those different flavors. That's when greens really come into their own. It's when they're all mixed together. We're going to drain this off. Alright, here we are with the dock. This is something that's really mild. It's got a nice lemony flavor. It's considered a mild green, so it's good for mixing with the other greens. We have a lot of it, so I just did it like I did with the dandelion greens. Put it in the sink, rinse it out, put it in your dish rack, and then kind of sort it out. If you think sort of a leaf is big, too big, break it off, see if it's tender enough. This dock is really succulent because it was growing during the last few days when it was just rainy. It's all nice and succulent. It's going to cook up just great. It's got nice little bit of a lemony flavor. By itself, I don't care for dock so much. It's kind of, again, one note. It's just too much of the same flavor, and then it turns this olive green, gray color that's not that appetizing. But it's great to help kind of temper some of the more bitter greens. But again, when you're going through your greens, sort them out. Anything that's not of the quality you'd want from a grocery store, for any kind of produce, or from your garden, just cull it out. Get any of the contaminants out, whether it's another edible like the geranium leaves, or whether it's grass, or just it's not up to snuff. It's wilted a little bit, it's got a little discoloration or too many bug holes. It's okay, get rid of that stuff and then focus on what's good. So all we're going to do is put this in some boiling water, cook it till it's tender. It's not going to take that long. Alright, this dock is kind of magically turning colors right before our eyes. This is what happens. It goes from a nice bright green, and it goes through kind of a medium green, and it starts turning this olive color, this olive green. It's not the most appetizing color. Some of the greens do that. Again, that's a nice reason for having a pot of mixed greens, because then you get a nice mix of colors. Amaranth is kind of that way for me too. It's just not that appetizing of a color, so having it in a pot of mixed greens sure helps. I love lamb's quarter all by itself though. And I love milkweed all by itself, and I love poke all by itself. A lot of the other greens, it's better to have as a mixed pot. There you can see the dock. It's turned all that olive green color. That smells really good. It's got a nice lemony smell to it. Alright, here we are. We've got the wild mustard, the field mustard. All I did was rinse it off and then cut off the tough stalks. Mustard's going to be on the hot side, not the bitter side, but the hot side, the hot peppery side. So we're going to keep it separate. All we're going to do is parboil it. We don't have to cook it very long, and we'll just take it out and drain it and treat it like any mustard. Alright, here's what we're going to put in the next pot. This is the cress. We're going to parboil it. A lot of times you don't need to, but because this is older cress, and I just want to make sure that it's tender enough. With what? With the plantain. You should recognize plantain. And then with what else? With the henbit. That benefits from some parboiling. And then the geranium leaves, I'm going to put those in there just because I prefer it that way. So we're going to put all those four together in the mix. The geranium leaves, henbit, plantain, and the cress. And treat all those the same. Parboil them, change the water in them, and then let them cook for a little bit, and then we'll call those done. Put the cress in, put the plantain in, put the henbit in, put the geranium leaves. Take this water that was boiling, pour it in on that, bring it to a boil. And that's going to be a nice mix of different flavors. But these are definitely on the side where you'd want to cook them for longer. Boy, it sure smells good. It smells like greens. Alright, the other thing I'm going to put in that mixed pot of greens are these cleavers. And even though these cleavers stick tight together, you need to go through them, pull them apart, and look and make sure you can get all the debris out so that you get out root parts, any kind of stalk that just is a little bad, just like you would treat spinach or lettuce or any of the greens that you buy at the store. Look it over, go through it, make sure you're using only the high quality stuff. I'm going to go ahead and throw the bed straw in that I've cut in half. There you go. That doesn't have to cook so long, and then we'll just be able to call all that done. We'll have a 5 greens mix. Alright, here we are with the wild lettuce. You can see that this looks a lot like the dandelion, except that it has a lot finer feel. It's not near as thick, or it's not near as substantial as a dandelion. It oozes latex when you first pick it, and then if you look at the back of the stalk here, it's got little teeth. There they are. You can see all those little dinosaur teeth right along the back side of that stem on the underside of the leaf. Prickly lettuce. That's why it gets that name, prickly lettuce. You'll like it if you like wilted lettuce, if you like the lettuce at the end of the season. So all we're going to do is put some boiling water over this. Not too much. This is going to cook down a lot. You could almost do this in a skillet, just like you would wilted lettuce. Anybody who's used lettuce in cooking, you can add lettuce to soup. You can do a lot with lettuce beyond just making a salad. We're just going to cook it down, kind of wilt it down, and then drain it out. And I'll do the same for the other lettuce. I'll keep them separate so you can see. Here's the other lettuce. I'm going to leave it whole, but I am going to cut off leaves that don't really look all that great. Something like that leaf. It's not the best. I'll take that one out. But I'm going to leave these like that. Maybe trim this bottom up a little more. And that'd be nice like an endive or something if you're going to cook that in a pan. Think of it like an endive. But take off these bottom leaves that just are a little yellow. Clean that up. Because that'd be nice, just kind of, once we parboil it, then you could use it in a baked dish like that. That's all nice. That one was growing up in a taller grass. You can see it's from taller grass. This one is from down in flat on the soil. It's a loose leaf. Just kind of clean them up, just like you would anything from a store. It's really no different. It's really no different than just going to the store or going out to the garden trying to get some quality produce. Yellowed stems. That one fell apart. Alright, now how do you tell this from a thistle? Because if this was a thistle, You wouldn't be doing this. You wouldn't be doing that to a thistle. You can do that with this. It just looks good. It looks so good. Here's what we've got. We've got the dock here. That's really nice and sweet tasting. It's really soft. There's a lemony flavor. That's pretty tasty. Then we've got the field mustard. That's completely different flavor. You know it. That field mustard is more like just what you'd have from your garden. Mustard. This is still pretty mild. It's not too hot. And certainly not bitter. Then what do we have here? The mixed greens, which is the bittercress, the geranium leaves, the plantain leaves, and Cleavers and Henbit. That's a nice pot of mixed greens with a whole variety of flavors. Then let's go over here. That's dandelion greens. That is a lot of dandelion greens. You wouldn't want to just sit and eat nothing but that, the dandelion greens, nor would you want to just sit and eat nothing but this wild lettuce. Both of those are on the bitter side, but they're definitely not so bitter that they're not edible. They're on the line of what you would have if you had radicchio, endive, older lettuce that you turn into wilted lettuce. That's a question of preference. I like it. A lot of people like it. Here's the other wild lettuce. It's a really nice lettuce. It's substantial. It has a little bitter bite to it, but it's really pretty mild. That would be good in something like a casserole, or you put it in a chicken broth. And then we've got finally here the broth from the dock. That is a nice broth. That's a good soup base, or a good base for the mix of the different greens. So you could take some of the dock, the wild lettuce, the dandelions, the mustard. It's a good mix of greens. It's nice to try that out and keep them separate, see how you like them. Realize that as the season progresses, the taste of some of these is going to change and go from mild to more bitter or mild to more hot. In the case of mustard, it'll get more hot. In the case of dandelion greens, wild lettuce, and some of the others, it might go more bitter. In other cases, like the plantain, it'll just get more tough. And so you can parboil things, you can change the water. But the whole point is this is a real amount of food. This isn't just about survival. This is about real food for real people. Just let your grass grow, and you can get food without even having to plant anything. This is just from walking around one trip around the yard. Well, I hope this helps you enjoy some of these common weeds that make some really great spring greens and can provide a substantial amount of real food. Please share, like, or subscribe, and I hope you'll come back and watch how to take some of these greens and turn them into some really tasty meals. Have a great day.